Who doesn't love urine? Hey guys, it's Phil from smilinggardener.com. If you haven't checked out my free online organic gardening course, you can do that right on the homepage of smilinggardener.com. Today I'm talking about homemade fertilizer. Now, I don't mind buying the occasional fertilizer for my garden if I know it's going to really help improve garden health, but I also really like to use fertilizers that I can make or scrounge from around my property because it's a lot more sustainable and it's free. And so today what I'm going to be doing is sharing just two. There are many different things you can use, but what I wanted to do was focus on two that pretty much everyone can use in their garden. The first one is urine. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but this is a really important one. So here is some of my urine, which I know is really gross for a lot of people, but I want to make an important point here. By the way, molasses is also really good in the garden, but today I'm talking about urine. Urine is not toxic, and actually urine is not really all that yellow. Maybe because of the sun it looks yellow today, but if you're drinking enough liquids, urine becomes much more clear. What I really want to get across is that if you're a reasonably healthy person, urine is not toxic. And I'm going to show you that by pouring some on my hands, which probably grossed some people out, and I apologize for that. But what I want to show you, you can drink urine if you have to. It's not something I'm really interested in doing, but urine is not toxic. It's not a place where all of your toxins go in your body. Urine is such wonderful stuff. I've read that it basically has, on average, I'm sure it varies a lot, but somewhere around 11 grams of nitrogen, 1 gram of phosphorus, 2.5 grams of potassium, and I'm sure it has other nutrients that your body didn't use as well. Especially if you take supplements and multivitamins, you may have heard someone say you're just peeing all of that money into the toilet. That's not entirely true. You get some of it, but you do pee some of it out, so that's going to be in here too. So it's a very nutritious thing. Of course, it's a little easier for guys to sprinkle a bit of urine around in the garden here or there, or maybe tucked away in a private spot. One reason why it's really nice to put a compost pile maybe in a corner somewhere, and then you can go and pee in there, because it's really great to do it in the compost pile. But otherwise what you can do is, you can pee right in the garden too. Otherwise you can pee in something like this, and then you can go and use that to water your plants. Now, if you're watering your plants directly, you'd want to mix it with 20 parts water. So, 20 times as much water as urine. But otherwise, you can go pee right in your soil and on your mulch around your plants without too much trouble. The best thing to do would be to flush your toilet out into your compost pile or into a wetland you've created to handle all of that and to recycle all of that. One of the main problems there is that many bylaws don't allow for that. But if you live in a place where you do, it's a great way to just recycle all of that stuff and bring that nutrition into your garden instead of sending it into the sewer system. I did some math once, and I'm not sure how accurate it was, but I figured that if you just peed or applied urine to 10 square feet of garden twice a year, you're applying a lot of the nitrogen needs of the garden. I'm not sure exactly how accurate that is, but I figure, if I pee on each of these trees once a month, that's plenty of nitrogen for those trees. So that's urine. It's not gross, it's totally awesome, so start peeing in your garden. The next thing on my list that pretty much anyone can do, as long as you have some grass clippings and some weeds around, is to create something called a herbal tea. And what you do is you take all these herbaceous plants and put them in a bucket with water and ferment them for a few days to a couple of weeks. Any kind of weeds and grass clippings will do. It's especially nice if you have some nutrient accumulating weeds, such as dandelions are pretty good, comfrey, yarrow, stinging nettle. I don't have most of those though, so I just use whatever I have. I do have a couple legumes, vetch and clover, which I also like to include, but the thing I have most is just this garlic mustard, which I don't think is the most nutritious weed, but of course it has nutrition in it. I have grass clippings, they have nutrition in it, so all of those can go in here. And what this does is it gets the nutrients off the weeds, it also gets the beneficial microorganisms off the weeds. We put them in here, we ferment them, and so it becomes this kind of a fermentation, like you'd ferment yogurt or beer or something like that, and it becomes this kind of nice tea we can apply to our plants. Now, it's entirely optional, but if you happen to have any kind of microbial inoculants like EM, which is what I use often, and biostimulants like rock dust, some kelp, sea minerals, any of that stuff I often talk about, you can put them in there. Now, you don't have to, because I'm trying to make this a homemade video. You don't need that stuff, but it just makes it an even better tea. Dandelions and some oats, some garlic mustard, a bit of vetch and clover, a bit of grass clippings, water, 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 water. Now that it's full of water, I need to cover it because this is more of a fermentation that I want to do without air. I don't have a lid, but this is actually kind of cool because if I put it in here, I can push down. It'll spill some of the water, but I'm making sure there's really no air in there now. And I'm just going to let this ferment for a couple of weeks. It might smell a little bit, but if I keep it covered, it should be okay. If you have a lot of weeds, you can do this in a much bigger bucket too. And then when you're done after a couple of weeks, you can just water your plants to give them a nice amount of broad spectrum nutrition and some beneficial fermenting microorganisms. So those are two of my favorite, simple, everyone can make them homemade fertilizers. If you have any questions about homemade fertilizers, you can ask them down below. If you haven't signed up for my free online organic gardening course, you can do that down below. And you can also join me and my sister over on Facebook at facebook.com/smilinggardener.